Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Of course, this is Morning Express and this is the way it is. And we're talking about matters on employment. Of course, before we went for the break, we talked about the mismatch between the skills and the jobs that are available. But then, Emmanuel, can you teach someone to find a job?
Yes, actually, job seekers, or rather candidates, have a role to play, you know. I say they have a role to play because they have to be self-aware of what their strength is, what they have learned, what they're good at, what they're not good at, you know. You know, that's part of knowing how to present yourselves. So the thing is, you know, once you go through school, you have a profile or a CV, what we know as a CV. So a CV, in another way, I think I'll just, you know, I'll define it as a tool that markets you. So this is a tool that you target different employers that you would like to work for, that you send to them so that they're interested in your profile. So it's a trigger that, hey, I'm looking, this is Ronnie. I really like what Ronnie has done, and I think he can be a good fit for my organization. So I'm going to phone Ronnie, and then he's going to come here and explain to us more details, you know, part of selling himself now. So our CV is a tool. And what we do as Brighter Monday is that we engage with millions and millions of people every month who are looking for opportunities, and they're in different levels because some of them are in entry level, some of them are skilled and in mid-level and senior level, and they all have different, levels of understanding on how they need to position themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where do we go wrong? When we're looking for jobs, you deal with so many people, you deal with CVs, where do we go wrong? The
biggest challenge, I think I'll throw it back to, I don't think it's a challenge, I think Ronnie said it's a good opportunity we have, but what I'd like to inform candidates is that employers are very specific. They're looking for quality. They're not going to gamble and pick someone. It's not like a jackpot where they say, let me pick this person.
Okay.
They take their time to understand these profiles and they select the best. Yeah. So for candidates, they need to understand what needs to be put out there that matches with that job role that the employer is looking to hire.
Yes. And most of these people, once they miss that opportunity, of course, the other way that they go for is entrepreneurship. And I guess that's where you two come in because you work so much with youths. But we're seeing that not so many people can sustain businesses. Not so many people can sustain entrepreneurship. So then what happens to those who, one, you cannot get a job, and two, you cannot even sustain entrepreneurship?
I mean, actually, you've just gone into the right direction. I don't think that the issue of job opportunities in Kenya is an issue of access. It's an issue of availability, fundamentally. I mean, Ronnie talked about the issue of every year about 100,000 jobs are available, right? He says about 1 million people are looking for these jobs. Yeah. Even if you're to fill all these people, the economy is not creating enough jobs that can then allow for access. So before solving the issue of access, solve the issue of availability. And this is critical. And for me, it goes hand in hand with government investment, as well as where you're going towards, which is entrepreneurship. What are some of the factors that can be able to spur that entrepreneurial growth and entrepreneurial spirit? These factors are predicated upon issues of credit facilities, issues of the right investment in infrastructure by government. I'll give you an example. If you look at last year, what were some of the main income earners and revenue earners for the economy? Number one was agricultural sector. If you look at the parallel investment by government in the agricultural sector, it's about 15%. When adventurous countries like Ethiopia invest about 35% to 40%. So when you get to hear about Ethiopia having this economic boom, it is the right infrastructural investment towards agriculture. Number two was service industry. I mean, you're talking about adventurous jobs. Some of them actually are coming from the IT sector, where we are even exporting our ICT expertise. But the investment in these adventurous areas are stifled by the idea of these Nairobi is not yet Manhattan kind of investment, where we are thinking about big projects. And these big projects are taking so much money that before you realize you've got a $4-5 billion debt to the outside community that has got no serious direct investment
Yes.
that can allow entrepreneurs to get opportunities to create jobs, private sector to open up. So if you solve these fundamental questions, you create jobs in the economy, people are going to find them. If you look at the survey in the rural communities, women are taking over household needs. So we need to talk, not only talk about employment, but gainful employment. Don't look at only the supply side, look at the demand side.
Ronnie, you look like you want to respond to that.
These economists sometimes can take you around in circles. I think, I think the point he's trying to make is we need to make sure we are putting money in industries that will drive job growth.
Okay.
Period. Now, for that to happen, obviously there has to be some fundamentals that are met. Today, I think the government, in the last 3-4 years, has been focused on creating an environment. In the next 5 years, now we're talking about very specific sectors to drive growth. So whether that has been roads, security, I think that has been done. Energy, power, bring the cost of that down. Those were the basics. Now we are moving towards this industry-driven focus. But that was not the point you asked. The point you asked was about entrepreneurship. I think, he has a point, and he says, we're not generating enough jobs. Can we? I don't know. This is obviously an ongoing debate with the more investments, with GDP hitting double digits. We then hope that we can be able to hit 1.2 million jobs per year. That's actually the need.
Is it achievable?
Well, we are today at about 800,000 jobs a year. The quality of the jobs, obviously, is debatable, but we're already at about 800,000 jobs a year.
Yes.
So it is achievable. The problem is that we have lagged behind so much. We have your 7 million backlog of people waiting for jobs. So then the question is, can everybody become an entrepreneur? Also, maybe not. But we need to then start thinking about what are those entrepreneurial spaces we can invest in. If Mutuma here is enterprising, how do we invest in Mutuma to set up an enterprise that then creates 4, 5, 6 other jobs? I think that's how we need to start looking at it. Actually, going forward, one of the things we've done at the fund, and as we go into Biashara Fund, is to say for every facility that we will give out to an youthful entrepreneur, we will hold them on revenue growth. So they will need to be able to demonstrate that the business is going to actually help revenue growth for their country, and 2, that they can create jobs. Okay. Those will be very significant measures going forward, because it's the only way that then we can be able to multiply the opportunity. The 100,000 I'm giving him to establish an enterprise, how do I stretch it? Is by holding him accountable and telling him by end of this year you must create 4 more jobs.
Okay. And just to add on this, Ronnie, you also need to go down to what actually are the challenges the entrepreneurs are facing. And one of them that sometimes become very soft, like from where I sit, mostly for young people, is vision setting.
Yes.
We deal with a syndrome called Me Too syndrome, where somebody sees that somebody has started an M-Pesa industry is doing well, and that what about go to an M-Pesa.
And that is very common in Kenya.
It's very common.
Yeah.
And reason
remember
being,
the quail
everyone
yes. So the reason being, and Ronnie, this is where it's kind of a feedback mechanism for you. The reason being, there's no that vision setting in adventurous and more potential growth areas in the economy. And that is the first biggest thing that entrepreneurs are suffering from. There has to be a way that you set the vision. And I know everybody likes to blame government, but this is not a blame. This is actually advice to government. If you set the agenda that we have got the highest opportunities and your infrastructural investment is going towards agriculture, service industry, and then simple value addition industries, leave alone this big agenda of big projects. No, simple, very simple value addition industries, entrepreneurs will have a signal.
Agreed.
Towards that. And then number 2 is all this idea of financial inclusion. Like right now, if you look at the survey, if you read the survey,
yes,
most entrepreneurs have got more confidence in Shylocks and even other entrepreneur shops in terms of getting merchants, right?
Than banks.
Than commercial banks.
Yes.
Why is this so? We have to go back to the issue of what is the cost of getting the interest rates?
Yes.
So all these are fundamental to helping entrepreneurs grow. I mean, some entrepreneurs might not be willing to come to youth fund. Why? Because they are scared of what the repercussions of that is.
The system. But you raise a critical question here about, I call it mentorship.
Yes.
You call it vision setting. Yes. Number one, it's not the business of government to be in business. It is the business of government to create an environment for business to prosper.
That's true.
So what should we be doing? And this is something that, this is a challenge that I have taken positively, and we're trying to see if it can be made to happen. The Mutumas of this world, the CEOs of this world, who are established, know how to manage a profitable business. Might not be his business, but he knows how to manage one. Needs to share that knowledge and skill with young entrepreneurs. So my challenge today is, how do I get the Mutumas of this world to share what they've learned on how to manage and run a business with these young guys? Because, and we are saying, even Mama Mboga running a kiosk in Kibera needs some basic business skills.
Yes.
You need to be able to know source of your product. First, you need to know which product sells in Kibera.
Niche.
Yes. Build your niche. You need to know what your customer likes. So you need some sort of market intel. You need to know where to source your product, quality, and at a good price. These are basic business skills or knowledge that everyone requires. Of course, the Mama Mboga does that every day.
Yes.
She just doesn't know it's a business skill. How she just knows me, I'm going to open my shop and I'll run it and I'll sell, and by end of day, nitakuwa nimeuza mboga za 2,000. Right? But they need these basic skills, and then we build up on it. I was having a conversation with Bob Collymore a couple of weeks back, and one of the things, unfortunate but true, is he says, the big boys will not have time to support young entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So it has to be mid-market players who take up that role and become mentors and coaches for young people.
Like
we probably
Mutuma.
need to start thinking about
Yes.
We need to challenge him.
You should, because I think for you, one, you know what is missing, because you deal with this employment every day. So it's easy for you to tell someone, okay, this is where you're going wrong, and this and this and this is what you need to do.
Sure.
But then at the same time, do you think maybe the government has failed us? Because you see many people from different counties coming to Nairobi, thinking Nairobi, there are so many jobs, only to find that the situation is not the same. But then with devolution in place, devolution is supposed to help create job opportunities, but it's not the case.
So actually, from the statistics, we see that 75% of the people in the white-collar space, because again, we have to understand there's a blue-collar space, which is much bigger, and it's really huge. Out of 800,000 jobs, I'm speaking 100,000 jobs only being on white-collar, and 700,000 are on the blue-collar space. So there's a lot that needs to be done in the blue-collar space in segmenting that. But my point is, 75% of these people in the white-collar space, and some of them in the blue-collar space, are coming to the capital city to look for opportunities. I feel as a country we have a role to play, especially with the county government, with devolution, where now we can even decongest the city and have even a cheaper way to run businesses out in the counties as compared to all of us just coming to the capital city.
Yes.
So I think that's really huge. But we've seen progress, which is actually really good. 85% of the people or companies that are looking for new people repeatedly are SMEs. And we have seen growth of SMEs, especially in the other towns that are also looking for now white-collar people to join their workforce, which I think we are going towards the right direction. And that's why I'm looking at it in a positive way. That devolution has been with us, is it 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. There are learnings that we've picked from that, we're seeing some growth in terms of job opportunities in other counties, but there's room to improve. There's quite a big role.
Do you think you should go back to the parents? Because you're saying, on this other hand, 100 white-collar jobs, 100,000 are available. Well, on this other hand, we're seeing 700,000 blue-collar jobs. You know, parents used to say, doctor, doctor, lawyer, lawyer, teacher. Maybe it's time we start shifting.
I think the market moved long time ago.
Yes.
And we got stuck on, you know, professions that our parents wanted for us. You know, how to be a doctor. You know, I ask young people, somebody says, I have a university degree in biodiversity and chemical engineering. I said, okay, well done. What's your skill? What are you selling to the market?
Yeah.
Nobody is buying a degree. No. Somebody is paying for a skill. So what is that skill? Every person, you know, somebody says, I studied a bachelor's in communication. I said,
what is your skill?
My friend, you're seated there, not because of your bachelor's in communication. It's because you have a skill.
Yes.
True.
You're seated there because you have a skill. It is that skill that you sold to KTN, and that is why they said, let's give you this job.
Yeah.
So every one of us needs to identify their skill, and then you need to become the best at that thing. You need to invest time. Unfortunately, you know, I guess because of our socialization, we imagine that we will go to school, we will go to, and that's part of the frustration that young people are going through today. This socialization that you will go through school, work hard, get an A, go to university, you will get a job.
Yes.
The ground shifted.
And part of it is, you know, the market is saturated and there's a lot of competition because as a country we are well-educated, you know, people who are educated, we are. But, you know, what Ronnie just said is, you know, you have to look at yourself and the competition within the market. So if you did communication in your class, only, I think there were 100 people in the other unis who still churned communication graduates at the same period, you have to understand your unique value proposition. Yeah. What is your strength in the communication degree that you have? What have you done uniquely and that you can quantify and present it to the employer that you can actually do it?
All right, Eddie.
I still strongly believe that the economy has to work.
It just has to.
Look, I'm still basing my arguments on the survey. I think it was a very, very important survey for this country, and I hope that the government will look more into it because
it's a government survey.
Yes. I mean, look more. It's a government survey, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, but sometimes the government does these surveys and keeps it. Yeah. So I'm talking about looking into it to be able to come up with some policy measures that could help facilitate this job creation thing. But if you focus so much more on the educated population, you could easily miss the point. Because I think that there's a part of that survey that was critically looking at the rural communities. Yes. And these rural communities, a few people go back to rural communities after school, because most of them hang around in urban areas and major cities to try to look for this job. But then 67% of the population is still in the rural community.
Don't forget there is job and job that pays well. There is just
that's why I talked about gainful employment. Yes. And the critical issue becomes: is it a question of income or just a question of being employed, right? And to me, when the red flag when the survey started talking about things like monthly poverty line, which in the rural area is about 3,000 shillings, yes. And in urban centers is about 5,000. 5,000, 6,000. Yes. That's critical to the economy. That means that we have to radically rethink the whole idea of unemployment. Radically. Okay. Because it goes without saying that actually people are now consuming without even saving. Everything that you're getting in the rural communities and in the urban communities, employment creation, saving in simple economics is saving equal to investments. And if there is no savings by household communities and women are struggling so much to put food on the table, and even that 3,000 in rural communities is very high. So for me, we need to start thinking about how do we go towards what we're talking about manufacturing, but manufacturing from a reverse psychology, whereby when you talk about county governments, where should county governments invest,
Yes.
for instance? I believe that simple public goods that make it easier for families to then get the energy to look for jobs, and number two, get the energy to create these SMEs is critical.
Okay.
Because when we were working in the grassroots community with Ongoza, we realized, for instance, that when a household, when somebody is sick, right, in a family of, let's say, 5 people, when one person is sick, all the other energies, right, are used in terms of taking care of this person. So there is no production that is going on. So how do we fast track these public good, healthcare, good roads, water, as simple as possible by county government, to then allow for entrepreneurs to come in and create jobs?
All right, I'll give you 30 seconds each, and 30 is 30, to give you your final parting shots. I'll start with you, Ronnie.
Yes, we are currently going through a complete overhaul of the national youth policy. Mm-hmm. I will encourage, policy players, industry players to participate. This is going to be a blueprint for determining how we invest in young people, whether it is in jobs, health, for the next couple of years. So please participate in the conversations.
Yes.
We will, I think, kick off the public participation forums this week across the country. So encourage anyone and everyone interested in youth to participate.
All right, Eddie, 30.
My 30 seconds is the unemployment issue in Kenya is not a one-sector issue. It is private sector, civil society, and government. But I strongly believe that the government should set the tone in terms of solving this. And to me, it lies within the permutations of trying as much as possible to invest in infrastructure that facilitates the right economic areas. For me, it is service industry and agriculture. And lastly, deal with national debt, deal with corruption, and deal with financial inclusion issues to allow for savings and investment model that allows entrepreneurs to come in and create jobs.
All right. For me, what has stood out lately is the issue of employee retention. We've been discussing that. We had a big event with the HR directors on Friday last week. So on the same space, we are launching the best 100 companies to work for report, which we're going to release this week. And we're looking on the other side of the coin, in the white-collar space, we're asking employees what would make you want to work for these companies. And things like benefits, pay and salaries, career progression, and a good working environment are some of the things which are really standing out. So I think I'll urge all the corporates and all the companies to watch out for the best 100 companies to work for report, which will help them ensure that there's productivity in the workspace and retention of good talent.
Okay, and bringing up of new good talents, yes?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. To my immediate left, Emmanuel Mutuma, who is the CEO of Brighter Monday. Next to him, Eddie Okech, founders of Ongoza, and last but not